times have changed so much. Society has changed so much. We're so much today. We tolerate. We accept so much more today than we ever accepted back in the 80s.
Oh God, yeah.
And we're a kindler, gentler agency now. We're a kindler, gentler nation. And instead of standing up for our beliefs and standing up for what we think is right, we're willing now to just kind of, we'll just turn another cheek.
Yeah.
We'll just look the other way. And I think that has weakened us as a nation. I see our administration down here who don't enforce the laws that we already have. They pick and choose which ones they agree with, and they enforce those, and the ones they don't agree with, they don't enforce. They press their agenda towards open border immigration so that they have no desire to stop this. They don't have, in their mind, drugs are the least of their concerns. They're not worried about that. I mean, my God, our president, he could not pass a background investigation to become a DEA agent, let alone be the president of the United States. I mean, he smoked pot all through college and as an adult. He used cocaine. God knows what other drugs he used. He just sees it as a bad habit. Obviously, he survived it, so it can't be that bad. And that's the mentality that we're dealing with. And not only do we elect him once, we re-elected him.
Yeah. What I can't understand. Yeah, what I can't understand, Steve, is anyone who has worked law enforcement knows the dangers that come with drug abuse, the dangers that come to society with drug abuse. And yet, what do? Well, certain states are legalizing marijuana. You've got clinical marijuana cards. I don't understand what's going on. You've been a DEA agent for what, nearly 30 years plus? You're now retired, and when you look back over 30 years, what changes have there been that are positive towards society?
Well, that's a great question. That are positive. The changes towards society as it relates to drugs is, I really believe that we go through cycles, we go through phases, and sadly we focus on one drug at a time. And as that drug becomes the focal point, we kind of forget about the other ones.
Right.
And so we demonize one at a time instead of looking at the entire the entire picture. We look at, we kind of focus, we laser beam on one at a time. And by doing that, we might gain some inroads into some, but then we lose those inroads in others that we have ignored.
Who's the money that is generated through the sale of illegal drugs? What happens to it? Is it just reinvested by the cartels into more drugs? Because there must be a surplus of money somewhere from all the drugs that are being sold and brought into the country illegally.
Well, hey, you've just brought up a great point. When when the Colombians first enlisted the aid of the Mexican traffickers to bring the cocaine into the country, they started off by paying them per kilogram that was brought in, be it $500 a key, $1,000 a key. They would pay them by the load. Over time that shifted so that the Mexicans no longer wanted money, they wanted control of the load. But when they were being paid money, they took that money, they saved up, they invested that money, and they invested it in weapons, they invested it in training, they invested it in bribes, paying off politicians, paying off military people, they invested it in corruption. And then suddenly when they took control of the drugs themselves, well, the money was even greater because there was much more profits. So they had already started a foundation of corruption, a foundation of criminal activity of their cartels, and now they had so much money coming in. It's almost pathetic, I mean, if you were to raid some of these cartel stash houses in Mexico, you'd find literally tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars in cash there that they're desperately trying to get into the various international financial systems. Excuse me. Sure. And now, when you think about it, that's the hardest thing about the drug world. selling drugs. Now, what do you do with the money?
Exactly.
Because in order to spend it, you've got to get it into the financial system.
You've got to launder
and because, yes, exactly. Yeah. And here's where the United States is making a huge, huge error, in my opinion. You have medical marijuana, and now in some states you have legalized recreational use marijuana. So you have all these idiots who are running down to these states, and they are getting involved in the dispensaries and the selling of marijuana. It's a cash-only business. So they're taking in tens of thousands of dollars in cash every day.
Right.
And but what do they do with that cash? At the end of the day, they can't bring it to the bank and deposit it because marijuana in the United States in the federal system is still a Schedule I controlled substance.
That's
still a drug. Therefore, the proceeds of it are illegal. So they can't bring it to the banks. They end up taking it to many warehouses. They end up bringing it to their homes. And they end up becoming targets for Mexican cartels, other criminal organizations who are looking to rob marijuana dispensary owners of cash. So you have the current president and the attorney general in the United States instructing federal prosecutors in states like Colorado, where marijuana is now recreational use is now legal. They're instructing federal prosecutors to ignore or to not prosecute money laundering statutes. Allow these drug dealers to get the cash into the banking system because it's just too dangerous for them to have this kind of cash around. It makes these drug traffickers, it makes them targets for other criminals. So now you have you have Mexican cartels, you have Russian and Chinese syndicates flocking to Colorado. You have them setting up dummy dispensaries. They don't even really sell pot. But they now are trying to take their cash to the same financial systems, the same co-ops. They're taking the cash in there from their own activities, be it weapons, arms dealing, human trafficking, prostitution, gambling, pornography, whatever their criminal activities are. They're bringing in the proceeds from that, and they're trying to get it into the financial system, claiming it's marijuana proceeds.
So let me understand this. You've got the president and the attorney general who are saying, all right, we are going to let them break the law because in order for them to not become victims of crime, we have to break the law. We're going to close an eye, but by doing that, they're opening the door for international drug sales to come into the states and use the laws that are being broken under the authorization of the president and the attorney general to launder money.
That's exactly right.
You and I have to take a commercial break with this one, my friend. Exonation, Steve Peterson is our special guest. Here's the website, www.nlesb.org. I'm in the wrong business. Are you considering calling a psychic to read your situation? Then consider David Champion, a psychic medium for more than 20 years with thousands of readings under his belt. David Champion will make you feel comfortable. He has proven to be honest and accurate. He's a straight shooter. There's no guesswork. What he sees is what you get. While he is a medium, most of the calls focus on relationships, not only love, but work, school, neighbors, and more. Need help with finding a job and preparing for the interview? Are you dealing with people who are obstacles in your path? For more information, go to davidchampion.com, $1.50 per minute paid by credit card with a minimum of 30 minutes. For your reading with David Champion, call 1-877-702-8598. That's 1-877-702-8598. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7, 365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7, 24/7/365. Now you can dial in to listen to the X-Zone Radio Show from anywhere in the world with Rob McConnell 24/7/365 by dialing 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080. If you have a mobile phone or landline, the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is now at your beck and call at 213-401-0080. That's 213-401-0080, 24/7/365.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back, everyone. This is the X-Zone. My name is Rob McConnell. My guest this hour is Steve Peterson. He is the Vice President of the National Law Enforcement Speakers Bureau, and he is also a recognized expert on the Mexican cartels and drug trafficking. His website, www.nlesb.org. And Steve, thanks very much for joining us. This is a great pleasure for us to have you on the show. But, you know...
Oh, it is my pleasure and my honor, sir. Thanks for having me.
I find it frustrating because I know how hard the men and women of law enforcement work. They were targets. They are truly the unsung heroes of society. And to know that you folks don't get the recognition and the support that you need in order to perform your jobs to the best of your ability, and I'm sure that each and every one of you do it, despite what's going on. How much further ahead would law enforcement be if you received the complete backing of the powers to be?
Well, yeah, I mean, geez, that's almost like a pipe dream. I don't know that any of us would understand what that would really be like. You know, when I came on this job back in the 80s, you were only restricted by your imagination on what kind of cases, how you could run an investigation, and I mean, I had the time of my life. Being a DEA agent was the greatest honor of my life, and I had the time of my life. I could probably count on one hand the number of days I didn't want to go to work.
Right.
And I look at the guys now, and I talk to the guys every day who are still on the job, and poor suckers that they are. And morale has never been lower than it is today. Never been lower. And I feel so bad. As I was saying, it's a great time to be a retired DEA agent because it is so frustrating to try to get things done when you're really fighting two battles. I call it the Vietnam War against drugs because it's not popular.
Yeah.
You're not getting any support. The administration gives you good lip service, but they don't give you any of the support, funding, or backing on what you really want to do. And while you're working in one direction, you have other branches of the government who should be working in tandem with you, actually working against you. And it's disheartening.
On the most part, in your opinion, do you find the media works with law enforcement or against law enforcement?
You know, for the most part, I want to say that they work with us. But sad as it is, and I don't think they do this intentionally, but sadly, the media does not necessarily help us in that. When something happens, and what comes to mind immediately is when you say that is like, for example, a police shooting.
Right.
When there's a police shooting, you know, the police really can't comment. They have to do an investigation.
Yep.
They have to find out what happened. So from the police side, you're going to get a lot of, you know, we can't comment. It's a personnel issue. It's under investigation. The officer is, on limited duty, pending investigation, typical stuff. But